Hi there, it's Roland again. And yesterday I talked to you about the book that I'm writing at the moment called Get Your Shit Together. And that's basically a collection of all the tips and tricks and hacks that I've learned over the course of the last year that have really helped me do exactly what I said, get my shit together. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite tricks for getting myself organized. And I can't really take credit for it. It's called the Eisenhower Principle, and a guy called Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, kind of like made this one famous. I tweaked it a little. So let me talk a bit about myself. I'm, as you know, quite an enthusiastic, happy, go-getting person. I love to say yes to people and take on assignments and stuff like that. I will say one of the challenges that I've had in the past is remembering all the things I've said yes to and prioritizing my time to make sure that I do the most important things first. So having some tricks and tips to remember all of your responsibilities is really important. So there are various ways you can do this. This is the method that I use. I love it because it's very visual and you get to sort of tick off the things that you do. What you'll need for this are some pieces of paper, some post-it notes, a Sharpie, and a big surface. Oh, here we go. So if you're familiar with the Eisenhower Principle, you'll know that Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, basically split all of the jobs that you have to do into 4 categories of importantness. The first one, just make sure that I can put this somewhere where you can see it, is, you can't really see it, but this says important and urgent. The second one is urgent, but not important. The third one is important, but not urgent. And the fourth one is not important and not urgent. As far as Stephen Covey went, all things that you have to do will fit into one of these 4 categories. Now, I've added 2 more. Completed and dead. As anyone who has worked with me knows, I actually have these things up on my wall at work, and a lot of people will walk past my cubicle or my office and be like, hope I don't end up on the dead pile. I'm like, well, let's see how it works out. Anyway, the principle of this is that every time you get given a task to do, you should categorize it as important and urgent, or important but not urgent but not important, important but not urgent, or not important and not urgent. And that's a really good way of knowing which things you should prioritize. Now, if you're an organized person, you can do this with a spreadsheet or with Evernote or your phone or anything like that. I like big visual things. So that's where I use the post-it notes. So I will every time anybody gets me to do anything, I will write a post-it note about it and I will categorize it. So I've got some examples for today. So I run a little review business, sending out books for reviewers. So 2 tasks that I had to do was send out 2 books today to my reviewers. And that is important because obviously they're people who pay me to do this. And it's also urgent. They need to go out today because they need to go out specifically 10 days before the book is published. So my first ARC and my second ARC go up into the important and urgent pile. The next story. The next task that I've got, my friend Dan Gold from Dan Gold Media, who is an awesome guy, he was prompting me to write an article for LinkedIn about enterprise social networks. And I think it was a really timely thing to do. And I promised him that I would write an article about that today. So that is definitely urgent. Dan might disagree, but I would say it's not necessarily important, because if I don't write the article, then Dan will be disappointed in me, and I don't want that to happen. But that's pretty much the biggest consequence. So the article goes into urgent, but not important. Next we have some blogging. I do some blogging for some clients, and I have 2 blogs to write, and those need to be up there and ready to go out for approval process, which takes a day tomorrow. So those are both important and urgent. Because it's important because obviously, again, I'm getting paid to do this, and it's urgent because I need to do them for the approval process to hit in. The next thing that I've got, update my website. So I've got a website for my business, and I need to update it with the number of subscribers I've got and things like that, so the customers that I get know what's going on. That's definitely important, but it's not necessarily urgent. It's the opposite of the article that I promised to write for Dan. So it's important to update my website, but it doesn't matter if I don't get it done today. So that goes into important, but not urgent. Then, in the same vein, I am doing a prize draw on Friday on a live Facebook event for the people who review my books. I want to send out a reminder of that today. So that's great if I can get it done. Again, if I don't get it out there, then okay, ideally I would get it done, but it's not going to be the end of the world. I've already sent out an invitation to do this, and I'll send out another one on Friday when the event goes live. So that's urgent because I need to get the email out today, but it's not important because it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't do it. And finally, as a writer, I happen to write fiction involving UFC fighters. So I wanted to write something that was really timely about that with the UFC. That's not really important because it doesn't really matter if it gets done or not, and it's also not that urgent because there isn't necessarily a time-specific thing to do. So there we go, we've classified my to-do list today. And you might wonder what these two things are. Well, one of the reasons why things like this and to-do lists are so successful is every time you tick that box on a to-do list or actually complete a task, your brain shoots out this little hit of dopamine. It's your reward chemical. And so one of the reasons I really enjoy this, because it's very visible, and is once you actually do a particular task, you can take it off and put it somewhere else, and your brain gives you that little reward, and you feel like, yeah, I accomplished something. So today, I have to admit, I've actually fibbed. I've already sent out these two ARCs up here, the two books that go into the reviews. I've already sent those out. So I get to put those in the completed section. Boom. Then what happens with the dead section? Well, I'll have to admit that sometimes, even though you put all of the tasks up here, you don't manage to get everything accomplished. So this reminder is going out for the email prize draw. Unfortunately, I didn't get that done by the deadline, so that goes into debt because I missed the opportunity to do that. And the advantage of it in terms of prioritization and time management is at any given point, I can look up and be like, okay, these are the things I have to do. This is everything I have to do. So for a start, because you have a post-it note for absolutely every single task you said that you would complete, you never let anything drop off the radar unless it drops down to the dead because you didn't get it done, or you go to completed because you did get it done. But at the glance here, I can say, okay, what is the most important thing that I need to be working on? So boom, I know that the most important thing I need to do are these two blocks, and really I should hold off on doing anything else until I do those two. And then once I've done that, it's important to update my website, but this thing here, for this article I promised to write for Dan, that's more urgent. So maybe I'll move on to that next. Once you go there, okay, I've cleared my decks of those two tasks, move on to the important but not urgent because it's more important, so I'll update my website. And then finally you can move on to the not important and not urgent, which is kind of like the nice to have rather than you have to have section of the thing. That's basically how this little system works. I really, really like it. As I said, the wonderful thing, you just have to be super disciplined. Anytime anybody tells you to do something or you agree to do something, you have to create a post-it note for it and stick it up there, because that way nothing ever gets forgotten. Nobody comes to your desk and says, hey Roland, how about that thing I asked you to do? And you're suddenly like, oh my god, I completely forgot about that. You never want that to happen to you. So this system helps me organize all the tasks I have to do, and it also helps me with prioritization of where they go. Now, as I said, the whole point of my book, Get Your Shit Together, is the process that I went through earlier this year, between largely March and May, that really helped me with things. This is a system that I've actually used for years, but the biggest challenge with it, and the thing that makes it work or not work, is actually doing it. So I will say, when I've started jobs, I've started really strong with this, but you have to be disciplined and you have to give yourself time in the day to actually make sure that you do the post-it notes, you keep up with it, so it actually becomes a useful tool. I will say that one of the reasons why I had some challenges last year is because I stopped being so disciplined about always writing these little notes and putting things up here, and that's, you know, where things started to be a little hazier. So, creating a system like this and making sure you stick to it with absolute militant discipline is a really, really positive tool. So I definitely recommend this. As I said, it's called the Eisenhower Matrix of Importance or something like that. It was in Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I added these 2 things here because we always like to tweak things and add our own additions. It's a really, really useful trick. So if you ever find yourself overwhelmed with things to do, you don't know what's most important to work with, or you find yourself forgetting little tasks that you promised to do, this system will really, really help you. So I definitely recommend it. Anyway, that's it. I hope you found this interesting, and I will keep up with these video updates, and maybe I will have some more stuff that you find interesting in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.